What's going on, everyone? Welcome. Really glad to have you guys here. Press one if you can hear me. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Let me see who's here, what state, what country is in the building. What's going on, y'all? Really glad to come on here and present another class to you all. If you are not familiar, I am Taylor Kiakili Hamilton. Most people know me as Kiakili or simply Key. That's Ki. Been trading here for a while. I've been in this trading space for 6 years. I started with $200 and a dream. Was able to attain figures in my first year of trading, um, and was able to triple that in this next year. But I had lots of rocky roads. I've definitely blown a portfolio or two during my time period. Now, essentially, with building the consistency and at the point that I am in my career, my time right now is dedicated towards helping traders learn how to overcome their own insecurities, their own anxieties, and in a way, the emotions and situations that we find ourselves in. And rather than ignoring those emotions or how we're processing information, it's better about recognizing signals and developing ways to respond to them in a more healthy, organized format. And so my goal for you all and with you all today, rather, is for us to have a bit of a casual session where we simply talk through some of the approaches that I've used to improve my own personal performance, some areas where I've worked directly with other students of mine to help them become better in their performance, and essentially try to narrow down and that you guys pick something up along the way. I'm going to be demonstrating some tools and resources that I've used. I'm also going to demonstrate some software that we've developed and that I use every single day to actually assist me with finding the trades that are high quality, probable, but more so something I can respond to very confidently without having to worry, is this going to reverse? And is my entry bad? All of these pieces. So if that sounds good with you guys, just press one in the chat. Let me know that you're here, you're alive, you're blessed, you're breathing. And that's what we're going to jump into today. All right. So that's really what I want to kind of say here. All right. So the first thing that we want to just touch on is, trading, it doesn't feel hard simply because you're bad at it. All right. It's, it is hard. It's a difficult thing to do. And there's a lot of things that we're processing at any given point. I think learning and adapting the concepts, I think there's a bit of a pathway that we've been able to develop where people are able to get to that point, right? And we're able to put two and two together with calls, puts. We can even learn how to read charts in an hour at this point, right? If you haven't watched that, we have a really nice video on our YouTube, as well as on our app, the Teach.Trade app, where it's simply about reading charts, how to get good at it, and having that as a starting point. It doesn't take too much to actually learn it, right? But a lot of this stuff, when it comes to practicing and processing the information, there's a lot of areas where we can process information and be in our own head, right? And one thing that's useful in this space, in this community, is that you kind of have to be able to get those ideas and thoughts out so that you can consider different thoughts, perspectives about the behaviors that you uh, went and had, for any moments where you have those missteps, because they're going to happen, right? And so we understand, like, it's not because you're simply bad at this, right? And there's so many things that can tell us that, right? Trading, it really feels hard because you're doing it without any system, no filter, and also with no help actually watching your screen, right? We're kind of in front of our phones, our iPads, or our monitors, and there's no one typically Maybe it might be your partner, your wife or husband, and they kind of hear you getting aggravated and upset about the things going on as either you get too quiet or you get really excited about, the things occurring and more. Or they hear someone else that you might be watching on a stream to get some, levels of advice or guidance during the day, right? And so there's some things I want to just talk through about how we can overcome these areas and make this approach a bit more simply. All right, and that's kind of what I want to be able to get to and showcase some things that you guys probably already have in place. But hopefully there's something that you pick up today and that you understand that this is what it comes down to. All right. So, the three things I'm going to focus on, and these are going to be the major shifts in the components that we have to measure to become higher performing traders, to be able to increase our actually trading performance. It is going to be in these three areas that we must find a sentiment to be able to purvey in. All right, so I'm going to use my handy dandy pen here. And so we have to talk through consistency, right? And one of the things that we can do is about how we navigate, what we're doing every single day. All right. So that is the major point, and that's where a lot of you are looking to develop how to even track this, right? How do I track consistency? What am I actually looking for to actually become that? What do I measure, right? What's the actual measurement to become a consistent trader? And how do I actually adhere to a process there, right? Secondly, we have precision. We're going to dive deep into all of these things, right? So, with your ability to read charts, right? If you're already there, that's definitely a plus, right? That's a big old check mark. You are good, right? That means you're able to be capable of finding setups, right? Because it could be as simple as simply looking for a hammer, a shooter, or right, or an inside candle. A lot of you are capable of doing this. If you haven't done this yet before, again, we're going to drop some resources for you guys to be able to just pick that up very quickly, right? And so you're able to find setups, and these are the simplest, high quality ones to see and find. We actually saw some happen in today's trading session, right? Um, but when you find these, you had all this information. You learned so much and got to this point in your trading journey. But do you trust it? Do you trust it? Put an 8 in chat if you have trouble trusting setups that you found, right? How do we develop trust within our system and actually executing, right? And then lastly, awareness, right? Having awareness of things happening to the within the market, right? So that could be things like news. I'll be honest, at the time of this recording, Meta had some really huge recent news, right? And I had no clue. I had no idea. I was watching the chart. The chart looked really great. I was like, wow, this actually looks amazing, right? But it had a big old news day that actually would have been relevant. And, we like to think that, oh, if I had known that, oh, if I had just seen that, I would have been in. I would have taken advantage, right? And then not only awareness, right? of the news, awareness of when the signals of the emotions, of the reactions, right? Of the energy that we are exhausting at any given point during a trading day, right? There's there's this space where in order to target these pieces, we have to have a system and process to address them, right? So I want to tackle each one by one, if that's all right with everybody. But you can feel free to screenshot this page. You have 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Remember CPA, right? Like taxes. It's consistency, precision, and awareness. CPA, like taxes. Because if you don't have these, well, you're gonna have the market taxing you with the amount that you're gonna have to pay it back. All right. So that's why I want to, be able to dive into and cover a few things. And so, with this first one here, the first thing that we have to shift is that a lot of us work into this freezing moment where they learn a lot in trading and they freeze. They freeze or they chase Discord alerts or Twitter. And that is what leads to a lack of discipline, right? You're opening the chart every morning with no idea where to start. That's holding back your consistency, right? But the real truth here is that consistency is not just being disciplined, right? I think we have a level of discipline to at least show up for the market, right? But we have to have the same starting point every single day, all right? And so that is the big point. You want the start of your day to look ubiquitous, to look very similar to every single day how you're starting it each trading day. All right. Um, and when you think about it from a logical standpoint, when you have a lot of inputs, right? When you have a lot of inputs, when you put in something random, you're going to get even more random results. All right. And so if we at the very least have the same input, we're able to at the very least get a repeatable process. And we start to expect similarities, at least in terms of how we handle the trading day. You understand every trading day is going to be different. That's the thing that honestly makes it pretty exciting to me. But in terms of how we act, how we develop that, that is what we focus on. All right. So what I'm going to show you guys where I start the day, there's two particular places where I'm starting my trading day. And that's going to be on the charts and on TradingView. So I'm going to, oh, excuse me, I'm on TradingView charts and on the news. All right. And so the very first thing that I need to do when it comes to this life of trading is I start with newsfilter.io. All right. I'm going to share this so that you all have this resource. You all have this free resource now as a result here. All right. But newsfilter.io is very important. I need to have the awareness to understand what is happening. Just what is the context of what's happening? Without a level of consistent awareness over the market, I know some people who actually trade, they don't read news, listen to news at all. I think it is crucial because it's the one thing that is true. There's two things that are true in the market. That's price action and that's news, right? But the interesting thing is that news can be certainly place where it overtakes anything that could occur in the market. A lot of us have experienced the unfortune, either the fortune or misfortune of trading through when the president is speaking. Um, and there's very relevant that we've seen some of the biggest moments in the market happen as a result of direct news. And so having that context after market, before market, that is very important at the very least. I'm going to pay more attention and have lots of emphasis on what's happening on the stock because that's going to determine my entry. But having this effectively here and getting a really quick rundown, that gives me everything I need to know to start my day the same way. All right. And so, at the very least, for me, this isn't always how I'm building my watch list, at least in 2026. I feel like I have my overall watch list determined pretty well, but this is typically a lot of the way, especially newer traders can start to develop a watch list. So, if you heard about Meta, either in the pre-market or sometime during this week as we had these highlights, that was a place where it gave you space to understand, hey, there's something really big happening on the horizon. Furthermore, you get a really good rundown just of what's happening on some of these major tickers. You've heard a lot about Micron and memory, about NVIDIA, which was super important. I don't see the NVIDIA news that I was looking for right here. But that was something that certainly gave a big rundown. And so with those bigger companies, especially, you're actually getting something very useful at any given stage. All right. So we take this context and we're able to compare this directly to the charts, right? So this is broken up into every single sector, and then that provides context to then um, provides context to then understand the language of the market, which are the charts. All right. And so I'm really excited to dive into that just briefly. And then I'm going to, we're going to jump into this very nicely. And so just to make that cross reference, here as I'm sharing my screen of charts, we saw the newsfilter.io every single morning. That is the key place because it gives context here for when I'm then looking at these sector ETFs. All right. So if you're not familiar with these sector ETFs, this is the SPDRs. They are some of the most prominent ways to be analyzing the different sectors, whether they're in finance, energy, consumer staples, semiconductors, which have been extremely popular. Those are the areas that give us a lot of promise to then take that information towards the actual tickers that we love and care about. So if I'm thinking about NVIDIA, I'm going to be looking at the semiconductor sector, that's SOXL, right? And then when it comes to the essentially, if I'm looking at Amazon or Tesla, I'm going to be looking at the consumer discretionary products because those are the biggest holdings there, and McDonald's. I don't really care too much about McDonald's. So one thing I want to share with you guys, I'm going to give you guys lots of freebies today, is that you can go ahead and have this direct chart of mine. If you are already on TradingView, that is yours. Keep that link, bookmark that link. I can also provide a direct layout as well that you can go ahead and continue to use in your free time. Let me see if I can actually pull that up quickly. It's not going to do it for me. I don't want to waste any time. So that is yours, for you to look at, open up in your browser, and you get to see just how I have my layout, how to, get a good grasp and look at this. So every single morning, this is the first thing. I'm not looking at any other stock, um, in the morning. And I oftentimes as well will spend my very first 10 to 15 minutes after the market has opened looking at these sectors because I need to bring that context and I need to know which sectors are strong, which ones are weak. And so even, today, for example, we had the semiconductor sector had gapped up, but it sold off most of the day, right? And so it wasn't really something that I was on focus. What I did see on the other side was this consumer discretionary. And so Amazon, which we will cover today, I really want to really be able to approach that really well, is, that ended up having I saw consumer discretionary being very strong, making higher lows. And then that caused me to then take a deeper look at what stocks in that could be a great opportunity, right? And so that then becomes a simple breakdown, right? Newsfilter.io to start the day, and then carry over to the sector ETFs, right? Simple enough. Furthermore, if you guys want to see my battle station, this is going to be also the part where it's just about starting the day, each day, relatively the same. All right, so now this is going to get a little complex, so don't get scared if you haven't seen this before. But what we have here is the overall battle station, right? Lots of tools, very handy and dandy in lots of different ways. But what you guys have to pay attention to for the most part is mostly this left-handed side. So this is how I keep my little eye, this little eye of mine, that I keep I keep focused on the tickers that are performing on my specific setup, right? And so uh, there's a component here where this is going to lead into our second pillar of precision, but I want to make sure that this is covered here when we're talking about consistency. All right. So having a screener that constantly checks for high quality setups is what enables me to not lose sight of the prize. All right. What this does is, let me see. What this does, I'm trying to put something in the middle here so I can make it bigger. Okay, so I have to do this. There we go. So what this does for me is that I'm able to have this oversight, and it becomes pretty obvious to me, like, okay, what opportunities are showing up. And so the moment when these gauges are being filled, when once it starts at 0% or 1%, that's when I want to start looking. Essentially, once we start at 1%, that's showing me that a stock is retracing through its previous range on whatever time frame that I choose. All right. And so once this is early on, that is going to cause me to go look at the stock. All right. I can come into the day with my own understanding of the context of the market because of Newsfilter.io. And then I get a breakdown of the sector strength. And then throughout the entire of the day, I don't even have to look at my main charts. I don't have to. I can simply wait if there's been enough information from news that has come in, sector that has developed, and then the stocks that are also then responding. As you can see, two of these stocks we've already talked about today, Meta and Amazon, and I actually saw two people in our community today make really great trades on Microsoft off of that as well. And so I'm really excited to kind of show you guys once we jump into that precision moment. And so it doesn't have to be this system, but it's very important that you do develop a system, right? Because having and developing a strategy for entry or finding things, that's the easy part. What we talked about here on the slide is that how do you get to the moment of actual trust? And that's what we're going to cover here in precision. All right. So utilizing a screener, a few wonderful resources. I'll cover and touch on a few of them towards the end. But I already gave you guys two real goodies and resources if you're not familiar with them already. And then I want to keep it going. All right. Let me know if this has been useful so far, family. And you guys kind of just getting a look into how I consistently show up to the market before I even make a trade, such that the preparation is already there and that you're getting into my mindset and a bit of that approach. All right. So that those were three steps. It could be two for you to start in tomorrow's trading session. And then, this third is what you can go on once we kind of cover a couple of these down the line. All right. So secondly, the thing about precision, all right? The thing about precision is a lot of us are so focused on improving our entries, and it's something that we definitely work on, and that's just something that we work directly with our students in different types of programs or events. We're about to have another event very soon, but this is something that is always a conversation starter. And there's lots of ways that we talk about this, and it's always a wonderful conversation. Um, but the simple thing, and it's a simple thing that has a complicated relationship. A simple thing that has a complicated relationship. And that's everything that you learned. Um, you have to believe in it. You truly have to believe in it and not be so shaken by the experiences that we've had. Easier said than done. But the reason and the big thing about um, having setups and making entries is that either the foundation for how you're understanding the market needs just a bit of tweaking, or that you've gotten to a point where you just do not trust anything that you're doing, right? You know what a double bob looks like, right? You know what a wedge looks like, all right? If you don't, we all know where to go, right? But in all seriousness, is that it's easy. It's kind of why this is a complicated relationship. It's the relationship that you're having with yourself. Um, because a lot of times the precision is not just in what you think about in terms of like your entries or where you're seeing the actual entry point to get in. A lot of times it comes down to the hesitation that starts first, that then by the time you actually make the trade and you've overcome that fear is then when you've kind of put yourself in a compromised position. Uh, and that's the back and forth that often happens because whether you doubted something in the first place, then by the time like, oh man, I should have got in, and that's when you run into something that you haven't trusted, right? And so whatever you identify as your space and your setup, stick with that. Don't think that it's trash, right? Um, the last thing is just there can be too many steps to you actually making that trade. I'm not going to overcomplicate just what's going on. We've talked through it. But the thing I really want to outline is that when you can't tell, right? You see what this says here? When you can't tell which one of these is which in the moment, it's never going to look well, right? It's never going to look well. You have to be able to visualize what that trade is and just take it. The bigger most part of your work is about the actual trade management. The trade management it should be prioritized for you over what having the perfect entry is. I promise, because you're going to waste time finding the perfect entry, and you're going to have better outcomes in the long run once you've nailed down specifically what your risk management is and how to perform from there. All right. And so the thing is, as we navigate here, precision isn't just about having a better eye on these things, right? It's having the filter. that says no. You need the filter that says no. You have to understand what gets you to say yes, right? We don't want you to simply only say it's your gut, right? Because your gut, it's as we talked about at the beginning of this session, when we talked about precision and awareness is about how we're responding to emotional signals, right? And it's oftentimes that your gut is the only thing that you have, and you're lacking a lot of areas when you should, where you're under pressure of the market. Oops, you're under pressure in the market in that space, right? And so that's kind of what produces some outcomes that really feel triggering, like that blood pressure, and it's like, has anyone press 8 again if you've ever felt like your motor control start to not feel right when you're making trades. I know I've some of the really risky trades I've taken. I know it's like my hands are shaking. I can't even keep my mouse on point where it needs to be, right? Or I might have a wrong swipe or tap on, the Robinhood app or whatever it may be, right? And so that's kind of what I want you guys to, be able to start to think through. Um, so for me, when it comes to precision, um, now we're gonna talk a little bit about charting the contracts. This is the fun part, right? Um, when it comes to precision, it ties a bit back to this screener and at least surfacing some uh, trades for myself, right? So one of the things that I've worked with recently, and I've been talking to a lot of our traders in our community and more because they want to just have a bit more of at least gaining the awareness and taking the moment of execution. One of the initial things here that we've covered in another class is the decision framework document, right? I'm going to drop this in the chat for anyone who hasn't picked it up. And I gave some of you, if you guys have come from another class and you haven't done your homework there, I'm going to drop this again so that you stop playing around. All right. But it's the decision framework document. All right. And this is something that's very useful to think through with a good mindset as it pertains to any given trade. All right. So we're going to compile all this list of links, but feel free to open them up, bookmark them, and then come back to them after you've stopped listening to my voice. All right. So here, the decision framework sheet is something that ties into what we're going to show in terms of software and what happens on TradingView. And so when we're thinking about our decision framework, we have three, or actually, excuse me, I'm sorry, four key decisions. Is where am I wrong? Is the trade worth taking? Where is the reward? And is the reward worth the risk? All right. And so that is what we have to figure out as we're about to take a trade. All right. And so, and when I'm making trades, I only want to take trades according to that setup that I decided. And we are going to cover the LVL. You see some of those letters on the chart already, but it could be any strategy. I promise. It doesn't have to be this one. This is one that's just really easy to pick up and that we provide to the community to be able to think less such that getting to execution, getting to precision becomes the moment of clarity for people because this is the least effort, at least for surfacing the opportunities. But executing and getting better at that is where the we have to put you guys in the ways under pressure, but have less pressure. And less pressure means less having to overthink, right? And so when we talk about what's the filter that says no for you, that means it has to be a trade that really sits within the parameters of what you're talking about, right? So when we talk about a trade about where am I wrong, is the trade worth taking, right? Um, One thing to zero in on is the risk to reward, and I want to bring this up on a an actual chart, if you guys don't mind that. Because the risk to reward, if there's a small risk to reward, then that's the flat no, right? And so how do we develop a filter? Well, this is going to be a really cool part where I get to show you guys just a bit. All right. So one of the things I'm going to pull up some random chart today. All right. Uh, some random chart. I just want to see what surface. You know what? Let me just go back here. Handy dandy. So we did have Amazon and Netflix. All right. So let's just cover Amazon because it's a bit easy to do so here, right? So I know there's a lot going on. So let me just make this easy pickings for you guys. So the one thing for Amazon, and if you don't know, this the ways about how I emphasize this for you guys often, it's always about taking the previous day or previous week or previous month, taking those areas on the chart and then just drawing a range from the high to the low, right? And so from that range, if we hit one side, we're trying to get to the other one, right? That's what happened here. You guys are able to see my chart, right? Just making sure. And so the one thing here is that this was surfaced, right? I'm going to tell you guys how this got surfaced and got my attention afterwards. But the thing is here is that when we have just this, what we're looking for is for the trade to be able to go from one side to the other. If this retraces a quarter of this whole little thing, right? If we hit one side and retrace a quarter of this entire box, that means there's a great opportunity for us to get to the other side, right? So because of that, the main thing I love to do is go on TradingView, click this long position tool, and then outline the trade before it even happens, right? And so from there, if I go to those specific points on the chart, I'm able to see my risk to reward ratio. All right. And so my risk to reward ratio regularly looks like this. It's at minimum 5 to 1 risk to reward, right? Sorry, the minimum is typically 2 to 1. But when I'm finding trades, I want to see trades where the amount of reward is so much more than how much I can risk. And when we have this technique of just marking the ranges of previous days and weeks, it's very easy to find and determine what that can be for yourself. All right. So if we have our entry at the quarter of this range, our reward at the other side, and where we are wrong at half of that, right? And that's where this area, this red area is, that just becomes and picks our trade, right? So this becomes the setup every single time. Marking the range, trading back through, marking an entry point, right? And so how this talks about when we're talking about precision, and it's not about having a better eye, because honestly speaking, anybody can do this. And if you're not there, we're like, oh man, like this is all new. Well, we're gonna get you there because you can do this, right? And that's where I want everyone to be capable of at the very least, right? The thing when we're talking about improving our trading performance with precision, like we said, it's not about having a better eye, it's having a filter. And so my filter determines exactly where I'm wrong, what's required for the minimum that I need to find for a trade to be worth it for me, like the risk to reward. And then having those specific uh, core values, essentially. I was gonna say like having a rule, but no, this is a core value. Like if I'm breaking this, honestly, it's unethical to the things I love and care about at this point, right? And so then I'm only finding setups that are then communicating this amount so that I can manage my trade better. Okay, it really comes down to that. I can manage my trade better. Because if you are so good, this is going to be where it hits you. If you are so good at managing your trades and getting precise with just setting this regulation and committing to it, entries become better. Ooh, you see how we did that, right? Because a lot of us want to start with just going in and proving the entry. That's what makes it better for what our trading performance over the course of a month, 2 months, 3 months is, right? But the that you can't get there without navigating the unwritten rules that we write for the market to expect the unexpected and have randomness as a factor in the things that we're doing. All right. So, in the ways of how I surface these setups, first and foremost, right, it's very much with the use of some of these tools and being able to highlight anything that is emphasizing and representing that risk to reward for me. That's really the core of what this is doing on my screen. But if I want to have something to point out to me, okay, that's a lot of tickers and stocks that's on your screen, buddy. How do you possibly keep up with that? Well, when we navigate over to this app, this space here, this is where I, at the very least, am able to narrow down my choices and become just a bit more consistent with, the tickers that are surfacing that are becoming an opportunity. All right. And so what this is here, this is our space is our full on app and space and software that a lot of our traders are using to surface setups and manage their performance on a regular basis. And so one of the big things that came about this today was that we had opportunities surface on us particular tickers. Right now, the big one that caught my attention was Amazon. And so what this is doing is that this is an agent that's actively searching for those same setups, but marking with high reward to low risk trade opportunities, and then narrowing it down for the filter. That outside of this filter, we're not going to surface just BS tickers or not that there's tickers that BS trade what you trade, then trade towards your portfolio and bank account, right? But more so to this is to those high volume, highly liquid setups and opportunities that are available. And so Amazon was one of them that brought me to that same chart, right? And so being able to analyze and witness this is then at the very least what brings the attention, highlights the moment of execution, and then that enables me to then go ahead, do my work, and then look for what is the top ticker, or excuse me, top contract to then consider down the line. All right. There's not always the best contract, but there really is a high probability one. And that's why I want you guys to be able to see once we get to this third pillar. And then I go ahead and demonstrate on the charts about charting and finding some of these really cool opportunities. So With the third pillar, and I want to bring this all together, that is about our awareness. And we talked about our awareness, about how we're responding to our emotions and the things happening around us, as well as essentially the news. So we talked about newsfilter.io being really useful. There's going to be something else that I really want you guys to be able to see and witness too. Um, in terms of how to bring awareness during the day. But the big thing is that you really want to, and actually just it's crazy because literally about oh, it's funny. It's literally right on my screen. Uh, so what I want to say is that I just came across this. So this is not part of the presentation, but I really want you guys to kind of get into my brain and start to think in the ways of how we process information. It just so happens that I just saw this. It's still on my screen, and it's a very relevant. So big shout out to whoever this trader is. I don't follow him, but seems like I think I saw he's 24 years old. You see people starting this at these young ages. I started trading when I was 23. But he says like he's certainly seen the great opportunity in trading. He's made a lot of money, but the thing is, it's like he said, even when the going is good, this is both for when the going is good and when the going isn't going, right? That he's was sticking to the screen and trading all day, man, right? On the screen, reviewing, scanning, always on go to find the next opportunity. And that is a level of grit that really was a big contributor to my early performance. I mean, during COVID, there was so much time to be able to do this, right? But I have a different perspective now about how we should develop our time and utilizing it effectively. But what he said is that this had him completely burnt out mentally, and I think it's something traders don't talk about enough. And that is with taking a lot of risks, right? Being stressed, dealing with heightened emotion. So big shout out to this guy. It's crazy because it's like that clairvoyance, because it's a lot of things that I've been thinking about recently. Think about, and I said this to our community, how has anyone here, press C in chat if you've gotten caught up in any choppiness this past week or 2 weeks or anything at all. Uh, I said to some of our students in our community, like there's a level of awareness to recognize when that is happening, but oftentimes you can just find yourself in it. And what does that do? Oh my God, it's so aggravating, right? It's aggravating. It's like you're having a position, you're being held hostage, and you don't know what your next decision is because it could go up, it could go down, your position. And so where it does the exit point become? And so that can be those things, just to come back to here, is that the biggest thing about choppiness and getting held hostage is that you kind of have to keep up with your broker. Some people here are day traders, and it's kind of like to have to monitor a position the entire trading day. It's like I want to be in and out within an hour. But now I'm babysitting this damn thing, right? I know I'm speaking to a gospel, so I don't want to go too long, but I know church can go for hours on that side, But that's kind of what I want to, really address, because I think we experience this, but I'm not sure if we're taking actual moves towards addressing it. And I myself, I can attest that this is something that I continue to navigate, and I have great times with managing it. I have bad times, moments where it's really frustrating, but it's a real thing that we just have to note and respond to as a signal, right? And so the big thing to note here, and that I want to share, and that even if you know the information, is kind of like making sure you're absorbing it and teaching it to yourself. Um, you want to make sure that I covered quite a bit of my system very quickly, going through quite a few things that I'm kind of utilizing. Um, but you want the system to be able to navigate this and watch so you don't have to. Because this is your energy, right? This is your energy that we're talking about, right? This is your time. And it can feel as though like it's like we're literally our life force is being sucked away and trapped away through these phone screens or the monitors when we're trying to just navigate our trading, right? So a lot of those ways in terms of, and now we're going to talk about charting the contracts just a bit. Um, and just, I'm going to glance over that and just make sure you guys kind of have these insights into the system is that the foundation for why again I kind of execute and manage things the way that I do and put so much emphasis is such that I get that chance to be able to look away from the screen and actually uh do something else, eat, go to the bathroom, you kind of just, navigate other types of things. And this is very relevant, especially to those who are workers, which is a majority of you, as sometimes you're ignoring your actual work duties to kind of accomplish this, because obviously we're trying to say F that job and get up on something else, right? But other times, a lot of us want to just navigate. We love the job. Like we navigate that. We want this as another piece of income. But the stressors can start to act on each other in some different ways. And so, in the ways of which when we're talking about charting contracts, and I'm also going to cover something else. I'm going to first cover with, at the very least, with orb. Let me do this and switch this up a little bit. Because I know, especially for those who've been around, I want to emphasize the LVL because of how easy it is to pick up. But I also want to navigate the different types of strategies and cases that we all utilize. So opening range breakout is it's probably the most popular trading strategy besides RSI and MACD. It's probably the most popular trading strategy that exists out there, right? And so we're marking the highs and the lows of the first 30 minutes. Or some people start to use the 5 minute nowadays, I've seen. For the first 30 minutes, if we break above there, there's an opportunity, right? If we break below, then maybe not. So the thing about this opening range is that you can follow an opportunity in the same way, right? You can have an entry, you can determine where your stop loss is, where you have half of the range being your stop loss, and then you could have the entirety of the range. Let me just draw a rectangle here. Or actually, no, let me just take this drawing. The entirety of the range can become your targets, right? Does everyone see how I did that? Let me try to take away the indicators for a moment. So the opening range breakout is simply marking the high and low of the first 30, right? So we mark that, we drag that over. If we break above the high, that means it's an entry for calls, right? And this is on the contract itself. So we're actually tracking the movement of the actual price. And so you can find a stop loss either at halfway of that range or a quarter of it. But what I did before is that I labeled this with this blue drawing. If you actually take this rectangle and then double it, place it on top, that actually gives you your targets for the trade. It's kind of crazy. And it kind of maps itself pretty simple in that way, right? And so when we're thinking about charting the options, what we can often do, and let me now that I've done that, what we can do here, if we have specifically where with the risk reward tool, and now we have all of our checks, this is where everything kind of comes in together, right? This risk reward says it's 3-1, where my stop loss is here, but the 3 means that this is triple the size of the stop loss. That's beautiful. Would we want to take a trade where we're just looking for this amount of profit, but we're allowing this much loss? Would you want a 9 cent move on the contract, but that you would allow that same contract to fall 15 cents? Answer in chat for me. I'm sure a lot of you know that answer, right? Oh, it looks like I can't undo. This is silly. But so what we can find here, and so I'm going to show you guys what I ended up doing. So how many contracts did I trade? I can actually check that right now. So I ended up buying 40 contracts here. So I bought 40 contracts right just around right here. And that became my entry. And so what I can do is I can drag this stop loss down here, right, to where my stop is. And I can drag my TP all the way up here. And I confirm the trade. And now there's nothing left for me to do. Now I can look away from my screen because essentially what I've done now is I've established my boundaries for this trade based on every single thing that we covered today. It all trickles down to this moment. Remember, news filter IO, look for news there. Then look at the sectors, right? That's what I'm doing before the market's open. Just planning, do some little pre-planning. Once the market opens, then I could look for some opportunities, right? I could see for hitting a previous low and then reversing. That's going to be what I look for, right? But then I have a system essentially that there's software that's telling me exactly what opportunities are arising that actually fit that criteria. And then that could be something I could just look at the what is being shared and sent to my phone through a notification, and then go to the chart and actually find the opportunity, right? In order to enter, it's going to just have that same preset. I determine my max risk, and I know exactly what that is. It's visual to me. It's not a guess. Oftentimes, I feel like a lot of us are guessing. We actually don't know how much we're putting on the line, but it's visual to me. And now the system is activating and operating without having me to be involved because every decision is already made. Every decision is already made. The levels are set, the targets are set, and my alerts are watching. All I have to do now is I can literally close my computer and walk away because that's what precision under no pressure can look like. And trust family. So there is something interesting here that I might have skipped over a step. And simply that's, here on Amazon, this other really wonderful tool. Let me know. Press OO in chat if you're someone here who's already used the options optimizer and you like using it. If you still want to have some help, you could put three O's. But if you have used the options optimizer, you like using it, press OO in chat. And this is something that is useful to be able to source what those options as they arise that fit the same criteria that we're talking about. And so something that happened today was that after we had that opportunity, we sourced exactly where some of these options, and it seems on Amazon, you could have really traded any single one of them. Um, but based on this, we saw that 245 and others were starting to gain a lot of volume. And so on Monday's expiration, some of these were happening. So that's just to answer the question, like, how did you know to pick July 13th? You know what I mean? So, but that's what kind of brought it here. But from this point now, once it kind of gets determined, there's nothing left for me to do. I could go ahead, walk away, pull out a frame, come back, check some of check on my friends, reach out to them. I haven't talked to them in a while. and and then just show back with something to show for this here, right? And that once the profit actually happens, I'm out, right? And it's with that capability. And so I use that demonstrating with the orb alone, right? But in the same, in the same kind of scenario, I certainly was utilizing the tool belt to surface when a useful opportunity could be. And in this case, that was around the $1 mark, right? And so this whole system laid it out for me. What was the opportunity? How much profit could be made during this time period? And it went above and beyond in that way, right? But I'm just showing you guys that it doesn't have to look one single way. Let me know if that's helpful to at least see it with the range rush reversal. And also just to kind of, get a look to see like how you might start to think about, okay, how do I set the system and make the system watch for me? And just to attest to all of this, family, like this was one of those first days of this week after this annoying choppiness that I really did look away. I actually looked away from the options. I felt like, wow, I'm not my own enemy for once this week. Right? Where all the chop and this and that and staring and I'm literally staring, looking at the contract and then getting out when there's nothing to kind of show for that, right? But getting that time, having the space to actually let it play out and just set those boundaries, and that your control over your emotions and all those things with the CPA, all the precision, the awareness, it all comes together just to highlight like a pretty good sentiment that you thank yourself for in the long run, and that you get to pat yourself on the back for buying yourself time where you're not pulled away, that your energy force, your life force is not being sucked away too much more. And that's really what, as I've taught a lot of my students who've gone on to now produce 5K, 10K months, that really was the part where they focused on in terms of getting better with their trade management and really putting to paper what that system is and just how to start navigating it. All right. And so for me, I am very open and with any value that you guys get from today's session, I am very open to really just sharing what mine is, right? I don't believe in gatekeeping. Like I really just want us to get to this point of processing the information, but taking more risks, not being more risky, but taking the risks with the bravery and confidence that comes from being able to arrive at these decisions in a healthier way. All right. That's really what I want to, point out with a lot of this, family. So just let me know so far how I'm doing in chat, how you guys have enjoyed some of this today. Um, the time frame doesn't really matter, Mike Chavez, about charting the options. The optimizer, it does name the target, at least it surfaces where to look, and then how you identify the stop loss and target. That's typically on the actual LVL. Would I move my stop loss at once we do get to that point of reward? I typically do move my stop up, but in the case of like if I haven't hit my target, I kind of still maintain the boundary, especially if I want to walk away. You know what I mean? But a lot of what I've done in terms of, I'm just answering a couple questions here. A lot of what I've done with managing trades more effectively, and this is going to all tie in, especially with what we're doing next week, right? With our big event, is that about how you get better at just developing your mindfulness about your commitment to this specific system, and so if you have to move your stop up, that's gonna happen. I personally in a lot of that case was just looking for that opportunity where we were looking to get to that TP in that scenario on the options chart itself. All right. Um, but I've been stopped out a few times this week, you know what I mean? Because it just goes ahead and hits my stop, and it can be like but it's the simple sense that I don't have to spend more time about being pulled away and energy sapped from the screen. And also, I don't have to spend too much time being so down on the side of having gotten stopped out. You know what I mean? Because I'm just not so invested. I'm not so invested. I know my risk limit. I keep that risk limit relatively small. And I kind of engage on that way. Sure, it kind of is annoying to miss out on an opportunity, but I could always be put in the position of another one. And you guys saw exactly all the pieces here for how it kind of becomes easier to kind of pick up and go forward, right? And so that's kind of just a lot of the things that I really wanted to tap into. Um, and so, with all of this, when we're talking through any of these points, and so remember that CPA family with the consistency, the precision, and the awareness is that it's not just about being a better trader. It's about at least establishing these major components and either having the resources or having better tools to run that repeatable process. All right. And so that's where I want to really be able to, dive into, and that you guys really hone in on that when it comes to your actual performance. A lot of what I commit to right now with traders is really about talking through that about the habits that we're having. A lot of us who've kind of been in our sessions with, and let me know if you're brand new, press N in chat if you're brand new, if you kind of just taking a peek, you're kind of still looking around and trying to search for a place to learn or develop some opportunities. That's a lot of what I kind of stand on here to kind of be able to share about specifically the habits, less about the strategy, more we can adjust that very easily, right? But we have to experiment fluidly and get to the place of opportunity of undoing the habits that affect us regularly so that we can get to the point of profitability more clearly without the confusion. Because the thing is, you guys might be spending a bit too much time really just kind of free balling it. And there's so much money being lost without addressing the issues head on or taking that seriously. And so I know it's very easy for us to kind of half effort a lot of the things we kind of jump into when it comes to trading because honestly we just really want to just get some more money to kind of funnel into another area here, right? But that's kind of the major area when we're talking about all the things we're experiencing in trading, how we're responding to them, what we operate to maintain that space. That really is the difference maker throughout all of this. All right. Make sense, family? You know the magic word or number, excuse me. So just to close off here, I just want to, give you guys just another sense and tour of just, a lot of the stuff that we have going on. Um, when it comes to performance, I want to see something here if I can get see if I don't know if they've produced my thing here. Give me one quick sec, fam. But essentially, when it comes to monitoring your overall performance, you have to make sure that you have your metrics and more on par and start to, get that to where you want to see and develop. You know what I'm saying? So a big piece where that we talk through is just having a visual for everything here. So one of the pieces that myself and quite a lot of other traders have looked at is just about getting more intimate and building that relationship with their actual trades. And so one thing just about this platform that a lot of folks have been able to get their hands on is it's simply about how we maintain and get visibility over the trades that we've actually taken, right? And so this is an example of a calendar where on this platform you just connect your broker, you and after that you're able to then get that sentiment over your trades and see in real time, like at the end of each day, like how did I do? What tickers did I take? What were the top performing, lowest performing? And then at the end of each month, I can see what was that outcome. And as you can see in June, I had a really, honestly, and it was something I manifested to have a really positive month and be able to yield that outcome, in that sentiment, right? But what this is, what I'm constantly doing is being able to review this to check back in such that I'm setting a commitment to having less like large lost days and maintaining, better outcomes. There's some days here where I had a really big loss, right? And other days as well where like the losses were a bit larger than what the wins were. But with maintaining that and keeping that visibility and honesty, that's how it keeps you going to be able to maintain the consistency and such that that carries over to making sure that your precision on the actual charts and the actual trades that you're taking can actually match a bit, you know. And then the other part is, constantly, competing and working with other traders about, how they're performing overall, such that every time it's kind of like there's something to show up for, and also, making it a friendly, competitive space where we can all see like how we are developing as traders. And so that's something that we're doing actively and ongoing. And it's something that is, really exciting to see just on the ways of how so many traders have been committing to that performance level, and specifically how that matches with whether they're utilizing the LVL, whether they're going the ways of just being a better self. It takes a community and that effort, and this is how I've really seen so many of the people in our community grow. I mean, a lot of y'all are older than me, so excuse me when I say this, but grow up to the sense of growing to the piece of how far the lessons and the adjustments and applications can translate to that clarity that's needed. You know what I'm saying? And so, that's kind of a big piece that I just wanted to share and also just give a big shout out to the community. And I really hope that a lot of the things that we've talked about through here in practice, that has shown its way. And because you guys inspire me every single day to keep going, Um, so just at the end of this, if this is something that you want to try out, we're actually having our trial day tomorrow. And you guys can check your emails after this call just to, get to, learn more about this if you want to, give this a run. But definitely we are kicking off our big event, our ticketed event starting this Sunday. Going to be 7 days. If you guys just want to tap in with me, my team, our coaches want to talk through anything that you're going through and then start that pathway to actually executing and getting to the piece of growth. Uh, that's what we're doing is essentially with the challenge. So it's a 7 day event. It's several hours. You're working together with me, our community members, as well as our captains and coaches, making sure that you develop a system. And by the seventh day, we rank everybody. We make sure everyone leaves with a bang. We teach you guys every single morning how you better identify setups and get more into that consistent habit. And then ending it off about how to perform next better the next day. And so anything that I covered today, if there was anything that piqued your interest about anything I covered today, you guys have the opportunity to have all of it for that next week during this full event, plus for an entire month after that. All right. So I want to share that if that is all right with you guys. Let me know if anyone here is actually already joining the challenge. Press uh, C in chat if you've been part of a challenge or you're going to be in this next challenge. I just want to see if there's anyone there. Because I just want to be able to, see where you guys are, make sure that you guys are in a comfortable place, and that any of this stuff that I've been talking about is, available for you guys to kind of investigate and understand. And so since we're starting this Sunday, we have just 2 days left on that. So there's no pressure. I just want to make sure if anything here is available for you guys, I want to make sure you guys are having this and that these habits that you're having are permanent. It is a ticketed event with just a few spots because we want to make sure that the people we're talking to, that they're coachable, that they get the time, that they are able to get more hours, and we're not spread thin across like 1,000 people. And so it's not a challenge where, okay, it's someone trying to say $500 to $100,000, and you're not going to get those same results because it's a late entry. They send the alert, but they're already up 50%. It's none of that. It's more so just a space where you can just be yourself, your authentic self, and that you're not sitting in the back of the room. Like we're actively talking to you and asking leading questions so that you become better. And so with all of those hours of work, this is something that we want to just make sure we keep it for the people who are actually dedicated and in there. I'm going to drop the link here. If you do use the code booster, that is your opportunity. It's available for the next 24 hours. If you are able to get on there, you'll be able to jump in onto our session tomorrow, where we're going to attack the market. We're going to be on that voice room. We're going to talk through anything that you have going on and just demonstrate again, just like how we did last Thursday. And we caught some really great trades live. All right. So I'm just going to, if you guys are there, if you guys are available for that time period, I know some people have summer plans. It would just be very worth it, especially if you're a day trader. All right. So I just want to make that available. Let me know again how this was, family. I'm really excited for what we have here. I'm really excited for all of the comments you guys have put here in the chat, and the questions that you guys have asked. I really hope I've been able to answer all of them. I put so much time into wanting to make sure that this community is set and you have the information that you need to be able to determine that next step for you guys. And we've had several people, shout out to Tony and Tristan in chat. Shout out to Chris and Tracy and quite a few people here. You guys have been really awesome and leading everyone, so many other people to that same pathway. All right. So we want to just make sure that this whole community is always iron sharpening iron. And if I could be, one of the first irons, I would feel as though that my job was done there. All right. So let me know, guys, if you're not in our community as well. Feel free to just jump into our Discord. I'll drop that link there in the chat. And then for anyone who just joined, I'll just make sure that you guys have the link again just for everything so that you have the information to get going. We dropped a lot of free goodies. I dropped my sector rotation chart as well as my news resource. Definitely tap into that news filter IO. All right. Um, get your morning consistent. Please don't sabotage that. We also have on Mondays, if you didn't know, we actually do have our morning sessions where we prepare the entire week. That is always a good place to at least start on that habit, such that, as we go throughout the week, I know it kind of is like your excitement kind of dwindles until it's like the weekend, and then you recharge and are able to start again. But we want to make sure that you guys are good at the end of the day, and that we're able to collaborate and be able to get to value faster and make this what it's worth. All right. Seems like we're all good. Seems like I don't see too many questions here. I don't think any more have kind of come up. But if anything, we are reachable through the community. Ask me or a team member. We'll get to you. And we just want to make sure that tomorrow is an incredible trading day for you. Go ahead, take this homework, apply it tomorrow. And then next week, we're going to make sure that all of these tools and resources are permanent, and that we start this July and we take control back. All right. So the last thing in chat, if you guys could just type take control in chat and then send enter, and then put a number in chat about how I did today, that would be the only thing I would ask from you, just to say take control in chat, hit enter, and then I just want to, be able to say thank you. I appreciate your time. I'm extremely grateful always being able to host these free sessions, decentralize this information, and be able to carry it forward. You guys have an excellent evening. We'll be in talk soon, and take control. Thanks, guys.